Ladies and gentlemen, are we live? Yes, we are live once again. How's everybody doing today on this excellent Friday, August 14th, 2026? And you've come and tuned into your favorite, somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman. And we're here for a while to chat about, how about, shall we just say, current events? That seems like kind of a nice way to put it. And as soon as I get the phone lines up and running, I'll give you the number. And feel free to call in 949-629-3820. And of course, we are the democracyradionetwork.com. You talk, we listen, but sometimes I talk also. And that's kind of the rules these days. And, I got to tell you, thinking back on Steve Bannon and the problem is these guys are really just evil geniuses. I mean, I don't know if this came completely from him, but this whole flood zone approach to governing. Let me get volume down a little bit for you guys. Um, so yeah, did he? I'm sure he didn't, develop it, but he's the one I kind of remember for the expression flooding the zone. And of course, I want to go into a few things that have just recently come to light. Uh, oh, I was thinking about a nickname. And lying Donald Trump is that's kind of passe these days. And how about this? How about Donald Poopy Pants Trump? Do you like that? And I was thinking there's old legal saying that I'll also adapt. And and the way I've rephrased it is, uh, there are three kinds of liars. There's liars, there's damn liars, then there's Donald Poopy Pants Trump. Does that do anything for you guys? Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool. I can't wait to get it up. Poopy Pants. I think that gets his. Oh man, if that does not do it, I don't know what will. Oh, we may even have to do a little collab on that. Get a quick IG post up there. Uh, oh, Donald Poopy Pants Trump. Then it is kind of fitting, isn't it? Guys, you can tell I've got a little coffee. And there's a. I'm really lucky here in Newport Beach. We have a really nice public library, and the library has a little recording studio and a little what they call media lab, so that you can edit, record, or edit almost anything. And I was in there using the media lab because my MacBook's just a little too small to have like seven windows open. And this girl behind me, I felt so sorry for her. You could tell she was, in college, and she's coughing and sneezing, and I kept thinking that, I know school's not started quite yet, but I still kind of have to give you the benefit of the doubt, and commend you for getting out and trying to carry on in the face of that, regardless of how many people you make ill in the process. But I'm kind of the same way. So I hope people cut me a little slack every now and then. But again, you wouldn't want to bet on it, would you? Talk about a little slack. How about that one guy in Illinois that just so happened to have bought the Powerball or won the Powerball, and I think 1 billion lifetime discounted present value is like 434 million. And I'm gonna tell you, in all honesty, that would certainly tide me over. I would not have a problem with that at all. Matter of fact, if I got everything but the Powerball, that would still be gracious money. But anyway, moving right along. Uh, so these days, I just it's thanks to the flood zone theory or practice rather, that we have a hard time holding Trump accountable because there's something new every day. And of course, you can see where I'm going with this. And I want to get it over a kind of a minor, well, not a minor headline, but it's a Trump bullying big deal. But compared to the other things he's done, I mean, how do you pick? So anyway, as you may recall, Trump sued Harvard for a gajillion dollars for permitting anti-Semitism to flourish on campus and making things uncomfortable for Jewish students there. Okay. And he's done this is his, that's what he did with, uh, every school. That's his approach. So, and we all know that certain people carry a certain resentment against Harvard. Uh, I'll agree with most of it. But like I said, this was not justified regardless of the institution. So anyway, so uh, the judge, in his infinite wisdom, says that the administration's isolated and episodic incidents are not enough to establish law breaking by Harvard. If you see, that's their whole approach. In case you haven't noticed, as whatever it is, it gets twisted and blown up out of all proportions to reality. And at this point, you would think we're used to it, but we're just not. And those sorts of distortions just freeze people for just that second, and when that instant, Trump chooses to move on. Uh, but yeah, the judge said it's too isolated, episodic, and my what I wonder how many times it was. Twice a year. I mean, I don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I think anti-Semitism is clearly wrong. I think the Jews are entitled to a homeland called Israel, and and I wish all the killing would stop. How about that? That's just kind of a quick wish. But anyway, so that's one instance of Trump's heavy-handedness, is how he tried to get schools to submit. And don't forget, he so withheld research money, and you know, believe me, those research and development parts of Harvard, they'll never be the same. And then how about the giving an order to retrofit the aircraft carriers with steam powered launchers? It's so backwards, and it's going to cost what, $169 billion or something. And there's a word that you may have come across, and it's called profligate, and it just means somebody who just spends money like God knows what. And I'm going to tell you something. He's running us into bankruptcy with what he's doing. His big beautiful bill added $3.8 trillion to the deficit. That's almost 10% from one guy, from one bill. And what about you? I can't. I don't know what the word is. Spineless Republicans that let him have it, and you are the same spineless Republicans that let him have Todd Blanche. And you guys are just. How can I put this really nicely? If you were on fire and you were in the street in front of me, I'd probably stop, but I don't know if I'd pee on you or not. So, anyway, just a little aside. But now let's get back to Trump's heavy-handedness. And we all know about Minnesota and the male nurse, was it Petrie or Petty, something like that. And there was a woman that got killed about the same time up there. And so the marshals go in and they want to surveil and find out who's doing what, but they don't surveil people relative to like immigration or whatever it is. They monitor like websites and organizations, and guess what? They're all left-leaning organizations. And if that's not domestic spying, I don't know what is. And that's just not permissible in the U.S. And and the sad truth of the matter is, and I hate when people remind me, but the truth of the matter is that elections have consequences. Well, in the bigger picture, everything we do has consequences. But the point is that elections have real consequences, because they're so they had the central nature of our government, the federal state system. And like I say, the guy just, and Franny Leibowitz, the photographer, said something the other day that kind of stunned me. She said, trust me, you don't know anybody as stupid as Donald Trump. Oh, she said, like, the scarier part is how stupid he is. And then she looked over and says something like, you don't know you don't know anyone as stupid as Trump is. She goes, no one you know is as stupid as this guy. And we've all come across people of different intellectual capabilities, but I thought she was making a very, very just a vital point in a way that was likely to get me to talk about it on the radio or on the broadcast. So yeah. So anyway, how about that? Doesn't that seem a little perverted? Just because it's maybe a labor. Why would you spy on a labor union, for God's sake? I mean, why would you spy on I don't know, a climate change group? We all know why, because they tend to be Democrats. Regardless, they have nothing to do with your professed role that's pretextual at best. And I'm gonna tell you, if there's everything that guy's good at, it's creating a pretext, making something out of nothing, and then capitalizing on it in some way. It would have been the U.S. would have been so much farther ahead now with the Trump administration, particularly the second Trump administration. I mean, to this day, guys, I can't imagine how in the world Donald Trump enough people voted for him to make him president. It's just and look at it, look at what he's doing. And like I said, did I mention spending money? I thought he did. I thought I did. Because that ballroom's gonna be like was it $500 billion, $500 billion, and then that Arc de Trump is gonna be what, another 250 mil or so. The guy just ordered 250 new Escalades, even though none were needed. And at leading into that, how about this? The former Homeland Security Director, Christie, whatever, puppy killer gnome. That's kind of the only thing I'll remember her for is being a puppy killer. Uh, so she gets nominated, and somehow or other, she gets approved to be Trump's Homeland Secretary, Department of Homeland Security. And Trump's kind of a hands-off kind of guy, right? So she does this like $250 million ad buy that features her, by the way, and the Trump administration and all that. And of course, she gets a cut of this. So, and Trump's not really happy about his Homeland Security upstaging him in the publicity department, but he lets it go for a while. So anyway, would you be really surprised to learn if that same Homeland Security Director, the puppy killer Christy Nome, bought a fleet of 10 airplanes for the extravagant price of $464 million, $500 million on 10 planes. But when you peel back the surface, it's like Trump's 250 Escalades. The claim made is that we need these jets now for deportation flights, and we don't have time to submit to offer competitive bidding. So we're going to award this on a no bid contract to Trump's buddy X. So, like I said, we got this fleet of $464 million planes that ain't doing any flying. And a no bid contract. The price was just really inflated. And, they just try to slough it off with, that they just had to do it quickly. And if you notice, it's not a pattern. Didn't they have to do like the Air Force One thing quickly and it, went south? Then they try to do something else and it went south. I mean, he's just he just spent I swear he's gonna drive us into bankruptcy. And we're closer than we think. We're already a pretty big debtor nation. And to have this lunatic acting like this, and don't forget, he knows exactly how to put his thumb on the scale in the financial markets. I heard where he was offering early access to his posts on Truth Social, conveniently his media arm, and at for the low price of $100,000. And I think he sold like less than 10. But even so, just is that not blatantly profiteering off the presidency? Is that stuff not explicitly prohibited in the Constitution? And if anybody's breaking the law, I don't care who it is, my guys, your guys, I don't care. If you break the law, there's punishments in store. It's like I just said. Actions have consequences. Um, you can be told not to do something and you do it, and you hurt somebody, and we told you. So, and as essential to all this is the immaturity level or the maturity level, which is I don't know. I could use the big school word sophomoric, but that would be an insult to all sophomorons, and so we can't do that. Um, but yeah, 464 half $1 billion on a no bid contract, and then they don't use them. And don't forget, Trump bought a fleet of icebreakers from Finland. I mean, the guy's just insane. Nobody tells him no. And I'm going to tell you guys, isn't that kind of the purpose of the Congress? Isn't that why it's called checks and balances? It's not called open checkbook. It's called checks and balances. And I mean, if the to excuse that, to excuse the corruption going on is either, oh well, everybody does it, or well, you're only complaining because it's my guy, or whatever it is. They need to be, what they need. They need some good old fashioned debates about this and put it in front of the public. And I think we'll see, the truth emerge. You can always say there's two sides to a story, and there usually are, but they're usually not equal sides, because people make a decision one way or the other. If they were deadlocked, that'd be like 50-50, we ain't budget. But usually decisions are made by, fairly convincing evidence, which is another word that, God almighty, you guys, the Trump Republicans just, you know, it's not only do they not depend on evidence, which most people kind of check the facts, make sure they comport with reality, but apparently these guys can't be bothered with that. Uh, when you keep distorting reality like that, and like I said, there's consequences, and I mean. And don't forget, I'm about to give it to the guy the slush fund that is just like another brick in the wall. Aren't you guys just like embarrassed? And I swear, I don't think so. Or if you are embarrassed, it's not here. Of course, and my personal theory is that in the last week or so, I've seen more Rolls Royces than I've seen, in a while. And when I say a lot, maybe seven, half a dozen, six, seven, and they're all pretty, nice and new looking. And I can only assume that those were courtesy of Donald Trump's tax cut. For everybody gets, everybody loses except he and his buddies. And you guys, I said, it's $3.8 trillion. How could you do this? Um, and I don't want to hear about the guy in Senator Cassidy from Louisiana, Kennedy, whatever his name is, complaining about the measles, mumps, rubella thing being split three ways. I mean, that's clearly not. I don't think that's the way to go. And these. It's not like RFK has had a whole lot of formal pharmacological training. I don't think, unless you count snorting cocaine off the toilet seat. If you count that, he might have some experience. But on the other hand, that may just be where it starts and stops. And to have this guy pushing like autism vaccine theories, and I've got a good friend. I've known him easily 40 years, 45 years probably. And he's got two severely autistic daughters. And one of them is pretty high functioning, the other isn't. And kids clearly need help with that kind of stuff. And we've just got to be a little more sensitive to what we're doing. But I mean, like I said, leaving trillions of dollars in debt for these poor kids to pay is unconscionable. On top of that, we've left them in a world where, even if you could get a loan for the $400,000 house, the only way you get the loan for the 400,000, did I say 400,000? $400,000, $400,000. What were we talking about, guys? Uh, oh, well, we'll take a chance and try to come back to that. That's right. It just, it's just a horrible situation. And, and even if we all turn out, God only knows what kind of monkey wrenches are going to be in the works. Anyway. Let's put that topic one side for another day. So yeah, how about the 10 planes, enormous deportations, and don't forget, trying to get there. Like I say, the planes. It's not like they, it's not like there's a jam up on the terminal or anything. Uh, but then we have so many deportations. They needed to have their own fleet of planes. Now, unless I miss my guess, if the contract is $464 million, Christy Nome had to have gotten at least what 10% of that. I mean, the corruption is just everything you would not expect in the United States. But my all-time favorite is when Trump insists he belongs on Mount Rushmore because everybody's saying what a great president he is. Uh, and of course that's the human printer's fault or problem or job. Because I was thinking about this, if it is her job to show Trump a constant stream of positive articles, not unlike the rat hitting the cocaine button over and over and over again, and every time she gives him something, I wonder, is it like wonder how exactly how legitimate is that news source she's quoting? And if I was a betting person, I would bet that they're somewhat, they might not be like top tier names. You might not have CBS reporting. You might have CSB report. Whatever it is. So and then how about this Kennedy Center thing? The board unanimously voted to put his name up there as renovated and improved by Dr. It's like the guy just can't get enough. And that's something we all ought to know. He's never satisfied. You think, what do you think would happen if he got the $1.8 billion slush fund? What do you think? And I said, I'll put the frightening scenario to you one more time. Trump recently asked for a master list of all U.S. spies and human intelligence sources. And usually you never make lists like that. I mean, people might know something on a need to know basis, but you just don't go around making lists of stuff like that, because it just might get into the wrong hands. But, like I say, elections have consequences, and he's the president, so he gets the list. And of course, that begs the question, why? What's he going to do with it? And my thought is that if based on past history, that he's got to be trying to sell something. He always doesn't know what the guy does. He grifts and always tries to sell some magical thing like the Trump Bible. That and what it's funny, you see pictures of Biden going to church every Sunday at the National Cathedral, whatever, and and then you see Trump like this, hold at Lafayette Square Park, holding the Bible upside down because he's never held one before. Uh, it's just it's a bad fantasy land. It's like where the guy, and I went to school with a guy like this. He was just not very bright at all, but he was so not so bright. You couldn't tell if he was trying to like be really insightful or not. And finally, I decided I was an idiot. I wasn't going to pay attention to him. Uh, but he looked legitimate and he looked credible. And if I'm not mistaken, he got a job, as a prosecuting attorney in somebody's office. But yeah, these people just look and of course they acted out with all their hearts and souls and everything else. So, and by the way, it is only 81 days left till November 2nd. So, guys, let's crank it up into gear. Uh, so back to the Trump thing with his name on the Kennedy Center, renovated by, Donald J. Trump. Now, it's not like, now, how about this? What if it says something like, donate, restored and renovated thanks to the $10 million personal donation from President Trump? Yeah, you'd be a little hard. That's a little harder to argue. But restored and renovated by, it's like, you just so happen to be the guy there. Uh, and let's see, does anybody have a feeling that with the tariff reversals and all that, we ain't got a whole lot of money coming in, despite what you might be led to believe? And guys, let's see, and I hope you recall what I kind of explained populism is. It's this just political belief that there's this great silent majority that's just as mad as you are about the same things you are. If they elect you, you will get rid of their problems on day one. Sound familiar? So you divide the country, and then you just you know continue pouring gasoline on the fire, and that's all the guy knows how to do. When I think about diplomacy, you I didn't he originally start dropping bombs on Iran because he was a little frustrated it was going slowly. Well, Mr. President, this is I hope to be able to say the same thing in November, and that elections have consequences, and that the Democrats showed up in force and made a statement. Uh, I don't, and I think part of having one of these like summer colds is dehydration, and I start every morning off in the sauna, and uh, and I usually take this bottle with me, fairly big bottle as you can see, and nothing up my sleeve, and I drank like a liter of water in like 10 or 15 minutes. I finally just had to get out and realized I just wasn't gonna make it that much longer. So anyway, we bailed out. But if you want to bail in and give us a call, the number is 949-629-3820. We are Democracy Radio Network. This is your somewhat savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman, here on the conveniently titled Abby Kaufman Show. And today we're it's just kind of like a current events catch up Friday. Oh, since it is Friday, maybe I'll actually go get a grilled cheese from In and Out and some of those fries. And I used to do this a lot, and until my friend just convinced me or begged me to please not do it anymore. But I always get taken to like really nice places for lunch, and and there's of course the server feels obligated to ask, "Would you like fries with that?" And I'm like, "About those fries?" And they go, "Yes." I said, "Did they come all the way from France?" And then the silence. I'm like, "Because that would make them French fries." Oh, and as much as hilarious as I think this is, for some reason other people are slow to catch on. So I decided that discretion, valor, and all that. I just wouldn't do the do they come from France routine when I'm in company. When I'm by myself, I can do it with reckless abandon. Uh, about those fries there. Just want to make things clear. And how about this? And there really weren't any editorials or things worth really chatting about. But the last article was, not only is it heartbreaking, but it's an indication of what's just around the corner. And the headline reads: "Hard choices for for New Yorkers after health insurance gutted by Trump, or gutted by Trump's cuts, rather." I mean, Medical care is sui generis, a category unto itself. There's really nothing you can equate like that. And ultimately it's going to be paid. Who gets what is always a problem, and how much it costs, and who pays for it. And I'm not going to get into the intricacies of health insurance, but I will say that I think you got to be a little suspicious of an industry that has its own unique coding and billing system, such that you have to go to school to learn this before you can go to work in the doctor's office. You know, go figure. Uh, so yeah, and hard choices. You know what the hard choices will be for New Yorkers? Same thing like they be in rural Ohio. What will I do to keep living? I don't want to die yet. What will I do? Will I go someplace else? Will I drive 50 miles to a clinic instead of the 10-mile one that closed? What am I going to do? So, and don't forget when they do this at inflated prices. Gas is still at least $1 more than where it should be. And, if you're just a regular commuter, gasoline can cost you $200 a month, or maybe now 250, where it used to cost you 200. And at a certain point, the fabric doesn't stretch anymore. And I'm hoping that Americans aren't there yet, but between the credit reports and the Fed, you got to wonder. And I do have to tell you, there's a reason these private equity places are not private. Well, yes, they are. Why the private equity people are taking it in the short so much, and this goes for private credit too, is let's say you Guitar Center, and let's say somebody like Synchrony Bank does your financing, and that works out all well and good until what? People can't pay their monthly bills. And these guys are so high, they probably are so highly leveraged that they just can't withstand any sort of a shock like that. And as kind of a parallel to that, not maybe a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, I think it's longer than that, I came across a thing where Fender had sued a lot of small guitar builders that built guitars that had the general shape of a Stratocaster, of a Fender Stratocaster. And they did this on a default ruling from Germany. Now, how that applies, I mean, you can argue. It's an arguing point in my book. I don't see where that's definitive or determinative. And so, the long story is, people got really pissed because stock instruments are just factory made instruments, but there's room for improvement in those things. And that's how this kind of cottage industry grew up. There's tons of small shop builders that might do what, a dozen to 100 a year. That's not, I mean, how do you make a living selling 100 things a year, especially guitars? uh, so like I say, when people make these choices of what to buy for food, or what to how much can they afford to give, how much can they afford to feed their kids, there are adults going hungry with all this. And guess what, guys? It didn't have to be this way. You let this happen. Uh, I need to get back to my old positive self, but it's summer's starting to end. You can sense the breeze is a little cooler. Days are starting to get a little shorter. I mean, you can kind of, it's not, it's not the winter solstice or anything, but as people kind of get ready to hunker down for the winter, such as it is, uh, you wonder how people can come out. What's Christmas going to be like? And I have a feeling that, particularly with the stock markets, that when these things crash, they're going to crash really hard because they went up really, really fast. I mean, disproportionately fast, and the market's clearly behaving irrationally. But that old thing about the market can be irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So you got to trade the market you have, not the market you wish you had. But anyway, I had heard people took out some massive short positions and it cost them like a fortune. I heard when people took like uh, call it the Dow 30,000 or something. It's just. Uh, anyway, health insurance is health. Not only health insurance, but it's just health care is the problem. And I don't see anything wrong. Why should just the seniors get Medicare? I think kids and adults. And, I mean, and the truth about it is, had Trump not blown the deficit up, we could have funded all this. And he just you know Anthony Scaramucci, his press secretary for 11 days, kind of suggested the other day that everything Trump touches eventually turns to dog poop. But the old mooch was a little more colorful than I would be. Uh, so yeah, imagine having one of your own guys telling the world that everything you touch turns to dog poop, and then the mooch goes ahead and gives a few examples of like unfinished things, like the East Wing, like the reflecting pool, like the Qatari jet, and he just went on and on and on. And I'm asking myself, did anybody else hear this? Did like another living human being hear this? Uh, because if they did, they certainly didn't pay attention to it. And I had coffee this morning with my 85-year-old friend from Riverside, and I'm gently easing him into like reality, and so like I said, and that's why. And the next time he brings this up about Trump and the economy or being a great businessman, ah, I had one. It just so happened to be show him Trump's list of business failures. But I'm not completely without a heart. We can celebrate that Trump's list of financial failures together. We can have like I don't know some Trump steaks, maybe a little Trump wine, a little water because you don't really drink, do you? And Donald, you need to reconsider that position. I think everybody needs their perception of reality distorted every now and then, even if it's once every 14 years, like Brad Pitt. And I just don't see anything wrong with a little reality altering every now and then. It's clearly a bad thing, and there's no room for addictions of any sort. But you have my thoughts on that. And if you want to chat about it, the number is 949-629-3820. And geez, the sorry about that, guys. This is these guys just really suck at this. Hang on. Sorry about that little interruption, guys. I don't know if any of you sail or anything, but that's just a horrible problem those guys have. And the problem is on a sailboat, when you put the mast up, if it's not already up, it, it rests on a thing called the mast step. And they're usually several inches deep. And, they could be really big depending on your mast. But anyway, the purpose is to keep the mast like with the boat. And the mast step here is really shallow, like 2 inches. So if there's any breeze at all that gets under it, this thing just launches. And of course, at that point, Uncle Ab's got to get up and muscle it back into place. God only knows if there's anything Uncle Ab does well. It's muscle work. Okay, and let's go over to Europe. Why don't we head to your Financial Times? And how about this? And of course, there's one anywhere on the front page of the New York Times. But the U.S. Confronts Israeli, or what is it? Condemns the settler surge in Israel and the West Bank. And I'm going to tell you, the Israeli settlers, as a broad general proposition, are lunatics in their own way. They believe with all their hearts and souls. It almost reminds me of a Trump voter. With their hearts and souls, that every square inch of of what was historically described as Palestine, I would guess would be Israel, the modern state of Israel. Uh, it's just it's an awfully bad situation. October 7th was just the last thing that needed to happen. And again, the Palestinians did that knowing. I mean, they didn't know the Israelis were going to strike back that hard. They didn't know they were going to destroy the whole Middle East. But they should have had some sort of idea that this wasn't going to go over really well. And don't forget, it was like deliberate cruelty. It's not just bombing people. It's like raping the women, killing the babies in front of them. It's uh, the height of inhumanity. And yeah, again, actions have consequences. And I'm hugely sorry about the death toll. I really regret. I can't imagine how we've ruined just the physical land in the Palestinian territories. Are they radioactive or anything with all those munitions? I mean, I don't. And when you drop those bombs, you generally don't care, about the residue because of the nature of the country. But there's so much just blatant destruction going on, and Trump just messes around with his ballroom. And I know you guys are tired of hearing this, but just get the guy some bigger underwear, will you? I mean, that'll solve the ballroom problem. And if that doesn't solve the ballroom problem, then then he's kind of on his own for this. Okay, so but anyway, these settlers, they're just insane, and they honestly consider these the Palestinians trespassers, and they're vigilantes. They take matters into their own hands. And whenever people start fighting for God, there's a certain zealotry or zealousness that comes out, and while we both know you can always catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar, it's a little late for that in the Middle East. And like I say, who's going to pay for the rebuilding of Iran? I mean, technically, we're obligated. So, but like I said, Trump's just such a zero. The only stuff that gets done are the things that make him money. For instance, and this kills me every time I say it. But when we bombed the Iranian girls' school that had 175 kids in it, and Trump was told it was a Tomahawk missile. First, he denies it, and then after we proved that it's our missile, he says, "Oh well, I'll look into it." And then guess what? I'll look into it is the generic sweeping under the rug. And how do you make a president do something? A branch of Congress could if they were co-equal, but nowhere in anybody's writing was the Congress designed to be a lapdog. I mean, any reading of history, which makes me so contemptful about the Supreme Court. I mean, I used to think there was some honor and integrity, and there probably used to be, but honor and integrity are not things Trump people are highlighting. They all highlight a certain willingness to circumvent the law to accomplish any given goal, particularly if it's money related. Uh, and while we're on the subject of money, how about this? Anthropic investors bet on a $2 trillion valuation. Uh, that'd be the largest float ever. And I don't know what they'll call it, Anthropic AI or whatever they call it, but they need a valuation of $2 trillion to make this thing float. Uh, yeah, I mean, the wealthiest people in the world would have to pull money for this, and large countries. Of course, we're so in debt, and the Japanese are selling our bonds periodically just to put us on notice. Even though we did the right thing by stepping up and helping them buy some yen and firm up their economy, and as a general proposition, the world benefits from when everybody has a healthy, functioning market economy. Um, But again, as healthy and functional, are those words you even vaguely associate with Trump? No. I mean, like I said, there's three kinds of liars. There's liars, there's damn liars, and there's Donald Poopy Pants Trump. And you got to admit, nobody does it better. From the golden walls of the Oval Office to the golden inscription on the Kennedy Center, restored and renovated by. I mean, they need a picture of Trump like in an orange jumpsuit with a broom. Yeah, that's how I know. Things are functioning normally. Is if let's just get this criminal out of here. And I can't. I say, wasn't January 6th enough to disqualify him? How could you guys vote for him? Please tell me. And and I should say, you're more than welcome to tell me and to give me a kind of uh, you can give me a vision that I may not accept, a version I may not accept, but I'll be happy to listen to you. And like I said, the number is 949-629-3820, and we welcome you to give us a call. But yeah, how about that? $2 trillion. Uh, is this thing getting ready to go again? Uh, Still in the. Yeah, I mean the breeze is not. It's barely blowing. I mean, I bet it's less than 10 knots out there. Uh, and but anyway, let's see, where were we? Oh, and how about this? Would you believe the administration is complaining that China and other is helping other countries avoid the Trump tariffs? I don't know, why does he? And I know he went back just because he's stupid, but didn't the court just tell him it's not a very good idea? Like you can't do that. And see, he's just a recalcitrant child. In that, if you tell him to do something, he's gonna be, well, make me. And that's gonna be, well, you can't make me. It just stands people off. And the truth of the matter is, or at least my truth of the matter is, when people are consistently aggressive and unhappy, there's some sort of a mental problem going on. And the guy say he needs a psychiatrist is like, I was going to say about something like Carter and liver pills, but that's a little prehistoric to talk about Carter liver pills. But yeah, and I'm going to bring this up again because I promised I would do this several times a show. And that is, I just wanted to mention, I'm going to come expand my statement here a little bit. Instead, I have been saying, guys, I think the president's got a credibility problem. And, I kind of do that in the nicest way possible, just to let my Republican buddies know that, I'm a decent guy. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this is, I'm absolutely speechless. So anyway, let's keep going here. Just because I'm speechless, that doesn't mean the station plays itself, does it? Um, let's see. Oh, and how about that? Oh, and would you believe that because the traffic jam in the Middle East, that the Panama Canal kind of went up in their price, and they're making a little more money? And it, just think, Trump believed something somebody told him, and it cost us all this. And don't forget, he's still, the Pentagon wants $1 trillion, and you got a guy who can't keep track of our inventory. I mean, somehow or other, we used up 80% of our interceptor missiles. Guys, yeah, if I was China, damn, if I wouldn't attack fairly soon. I would attack while Trump's in charge because I don't think he knows what to do. He might say something like nuke him, but I don't. I wonder at what point an officer says no, sir. Like no new, or I mean, if he got like I don't know, if he got like a really bad cheeseburger at McDonald's, would he nuke him? And, sometimes I honestly believe he would. Uh, but again, he's that recalcitrant child that's like, when you tell him to do something, well, no, you can't make me, or make me do it. But it's just constantly challenging. And the truth of the matter is, it serves no purpose other than just a huge waste of time and fosters destructive tendencies. And whatever it is, you can, and I'm not a George Bush fan of either one of them. But when the younger one, WW, said something like, uh, we're all together after 9/11, can you imagine Trump doing that? He would instead turn it into a diatribe against the commie socialist pinko, whatever it is, that blew up this awful place because it couldn't be one of our good MAGA people. I mean, you can hear it now. And and I want to float something else to you, just in passing. Uh, let's and if Trump gets like somehow access to $1.8 billion for free, and let's say he disperses it to, oh, I don't know, maybe the 1,600 people that got convicted for January 6th related crimes. And what if he says, guys, I'm thinking about having a little get together. Uh, why don't you come on up here, like maybe around January, I don't know, whatever. How about January 18th? And hang out for a few days, and I'll give you each what $10 million. And if you want, you can even bring your stuff and camp out on the White House lawn. Just surround them, just put all your tents around the White House. And at that point, he's got a private army of 1,600 armed people protecting him, trying to make sure he doesn't get dragged out of the White House. And it really is kind of awkward to say, but you had this feeling when he first started destroying the East Wing and was going to do the ballroom, and at some point you realize that's if somebody's doing that kind of remodeling, they plan on being around for a while. I mean, this is not the kind of stuff you do for a tenancy that has 3 years left to run. And of course, when the judge halted construction on the East Wing ballroom, and explained to Trump that he was just a tenant, the guy just went livid. He wasn't just a tenant; he's the president of the United States. And we're like, well, we understand that, but you're still a tenant. And the guys just, I think that when you, and again, you can fact check me on this, but I think when you kind of ignore things in people and facts and circumstances, I think that makes you kind of like, what's the word? How about ignorant? And, uh, I said my exasperation runs deep these days. So guys, I have let's see, it's Friday the 14th, 80 more days to go. It'd be nice to have. I can't believe it's not like a No Kings thing posted yet, because there really should be one like in October, uh, or I mean September or October. I don't really care, but I think we kind of need that show of force. And if by some miracle we get like the over 10 million turnout, I think at that point the Republicans' fear becomes palpable, and I think at that point they're more likely to show their hand than not. And just maybe we catch them early. If not, I see you can't let it try. And let's see, what if 10 o'clock rolls around? That means the polls closed in California 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago. And what Trump just says, I won. Election's over. I won. And you're like, you can't do that. And then you wonder, well, maybe the Supreme Court, will let him do that. Um, so it's just what it is. We've lost whatever bit of certainty and moral compass that kind of kept the country headed in the right direction. I mean, I'm going to tell you, there's no doubt in my mind that that just about everything Joe Biden did was humane in some way. I mean, as bad as the withdrawal was from Afghanistan, I think Trump's the one that kind of left the mess for Biden to clean up. And is that like him at all? Well, probably. I mean, the guy's just, how you, it's like supporting a felon with a criminal record as long as you're armed. After a while, they just don't have credibility. Their words are not worthy of being believed. And that's why I've been chatting with some city council members like Donald Torres in Stanton and Dan Rocha up in Artesia. And that's why I called him. I said, Donald, you might be a son of Stanton, but you're a man of your word. And for Dan Rocha, same thing. Son of Artesia, man of your word. And I said, just at some basic level, can't we get somebody who, like, kind of doesn't lie with every breath? And I said, the guy's just starting to, he gives us so many distractions that we really can't focus on systematically looting the government. Oh, and I say back to that master spy list, talking about looting the government. What's that list worth? What's he got it for? Knowing Trump with his background, you have to basically sell that thing somehow. So, of course, that begs the question: how much? What would it take to buy it? Uh, and that's where I think this gets really interesting. I think that Trump clearly would turn down $100 billion. He can kind of relate to that, but I don't know if he'd be so quick to turn down like $500 billion, like $500 billion, or what if the ultimate prize was $1 trillion? And I know the requirements to transfer money are really difficult. I don't think you can transfer more than like 10 million in any given wire. So it would take a boatload of those to get to the $1 trillion thing number. But what do you think, guys? Think he'd sell it for $1 trillion? You know he would. Like I said, these days the most dangerous place in D.C. And tell me, call me if you disagree with this, but I swear the most dangerous place in D.C. is either between Donald Trump and a dollar, or between Donald Trump and a camera. Honest to God, I think it's much more likely to be the most dangerous place being between Donald Trump and a dollar. But people might accuse me of being a little disrespectful, but I wouldn't go that far. We just try to call them like we see them, and put this in a particularly Democratic favorable light, because that's why we are here. We are here to help Democrats get elected up and down the ballot, regardless of state, county, whatever it is. We are here to help. Guys, it's closing in on the 1 o'clock hour, and as usual, my voice is going in because I had my coffee and peanut butter jelly sandwich before I came on. I don't have anything warm to drink to help my throat. And believe it or not, the breeze is picking up a little. So, guys, it's Friday. I'm gonna suggest. Actually, I'm gonna give you guys a little permission, and I'm gonna give everybody listening permission to leave work a little early today. Summer's almost over. Have that one more Friday happy hour, beer, cocktail, whatever it is, and let's hit it back Monday, and everybody be refreshed and ready to charge and ready to report on the weekend's travesties as they come in. So, guys, you know what we always do around this time? It's the same deal. It's a